Hey, everybody. It's Jeremy from jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, self publisher, and I share my creator's process here with you online. If you enjoy these live streams, like to get additional bonus live streams twice a month, you can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $2 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, work in progress animated GIFs, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free newsletter at substack.com/@Jeremy. And if you would like to purchase physical copies of my comic books, or if you read digitally on Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page. And today we have a guest, my buddy Shane. He writes as under the pen name Billy Slaughter. He's a webcomic creator and indie artist, and all around great guy. Welcome, Shane. Good to see you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. I was really excited to do this with you. And, I think where we can start in our conversation was how we know each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this, but I just saw when you were holding up your books, Eyes of the Gods.
Yes.
And when I first got a Kindle, I got it because I really wanted to start reading digital comic books. And I found your comic book on Comixology before they were even bought by Amazon. And I enjoyed Eyes of the Gods so much when I was reading that because it was like such an original idea. For those of you that haven't read Eyes of the Gods, this guy goes in for something to do with his eyes. And then when he leaves the doctor's office, what can he start doing? I mean, he has to
having visions. It's like remote viewing. He can see things that are happening in other places. He's looking through other people's eyes,
right.
But he can't control when or where these visions happens. He witnesses a murder in one of the visions, but then finds out it's being reported in the news as a death by natural causes. Chaos ensues. He gets embroiled in this whole drama.
Loved the story, and what more is like art always serves story, and boy did it, because when I was looking at the artwork on what you accomplished on that, just the one page where he's just like drowning in eyes, and I was like, how long did it take you to draw that page? Oh my gosh, the patience you must have had in creating that. So after I got my Kindle, I went and found you on Facebook, told you that I really enjoyed that story a lot, and that I got it on my Kindle. And that was, I think, 15 years ago. Does that sound right? That came out?
Yeah, we've known each other for a good long while. And, and by the way, I wanted to tell you, thank you very much for the kind words about that work. I'm glad that it stands up and still resonates, because, I mean, putting your first book out there, it's always challenging, and it's not a perfect piece of work, but I'm proud of it, and I appreciate that that's what connected us. So thank you.
You should be proud of that work. Anybody that looks at that will see how much time you took in it, and the art is just incredible, and it does serve the story a lot. So after that,
I did want to say real quick for anyone watching, I don't know why this thing is set on a timer, but I want to point people to house5studios.tumblr.com. That's your Tumblr. If anyone wants to actually see your comics while we're talking and getting into this, they can see the great work that you're putting out. So
thank you.
And that's in the description for the video as well, for anybody who's watching.
So anybody that's watching, House 5 Studios came out of Slaughterhouse 5. That is like my second favorite sci-fi book. First of which is Dune, which I'll talk about later. Anyways, the main character in Slaughterhouse 5, his name is Billy, and so I decided Billy Slaughter and House 5 Studios, and it all comes out of Slaughterhouse 5, which was a novel. And
the only Vonnegut novel I've read, actually, and it's a great book. But I've been meaning. It's one of those things where everyone who I love loves Vonnegut, and so it's just a matter of making the time to read through his body, all of his bodies of works. But I started with Slaughterhouse-Five just because that one is the most famous.
Such a great book, and it's such a great story, such a great concept. Kurt Vonnegut was the people's author. That's how he loved to be seen by the public, is that he was the people's author, and his views really reflect that a lot. And I go by Billy Slaughter because I wanted to start in my comic book expressing ideas that are unpopular with a lot of other people. And because my views are unpopular with so many people who people are against equality, and equal opportunity, and that's what I express a lot. I've already been doxxed, and I just didn't want to be doxxed again, so I don't go by Shane anymore on that. Yeah, it's been such a long journey to get to where I was confident enough to make a comic book. And
well, we started getting into that before we started. So what was your journey in terms of when you decided I want to use comics as a vehicle of expression? And I see we've already got some folks rolling in the chat. Our regulars, Amar is here, says happy Sunday. And my boy Herman says, what's good, G and peeps? Hope all is well. So, good to see these guys. People are starting to roll in the chat.
Go. What started me on my journey? There was a time in my life that I'm a sex abuse survivor, and I'm a child abuse survivor. And I'm 54 now. And when I just turned 54, January 27th.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And when I turned 50, I was struggling with a complex PTSD, and I was struggling with anorexia, and I was struggling with exercise addiction. And it was so bad, I had to go into residential treatment. And while I was in residential treatment, I took this with me, by the way.
Gotta bring your art supplies with you.
Yeah, I brought my art supplies. It had to be in a clear clear container like that. And I started drawing again. When I was a kid, like 12, 13, I got an interest in drawing. But at that time, when I was 12 or 13, it was Conan the Barbarian, and I just fell in love with comic books. And soon I said, well, I want to try drawing, and I was tracing. And then I said, well, I want to try drawing on my own, and it gave me an escape from my life, because my dad is a Vietnam veteran. And he had PTSD really bad, and he returned home to a country that didn't want him back. And he couldn't forget the atrocities that he committed in Vietnam, and all that hate, all that resentment, all those negative emotions. He had to get those out. And he got them out on me and my sister.
That's hard, man.
Yeah. And so to escape that, I would go to my room and spend so much time in my room. And I would buy comic books, man. I bought the Avengers. I bought Conan. I bought Spider-Man. I would go to used bookstores and see where they had comic books in the back. And I would get like as many as I could for 10 cents and just buy all these comic books. And I fell in love with comic books at 13, and it never has left me my entire life. I had a dream that I wanted to be the next Rob Liefeld as I got older. And but unfortunately for people like me who grow up in generational poverty, in extreme poverty, extreme abuse, all the all that leaves an impression upon your mind, and that your mind never forgets. And I led a life of struggle, and so that struggle ended up one day, and I had to at residential treatment, and I started falling in love with drawing again. People in treatment were saying, like, my word, you are such a talented artist. Why don't you do something with that? And I already knew you at this time. And I was thinking, like, well, because I'm not as good as Jeremy.
Stop. No one is as good as they ever want to be. I appreciate that, but continue.
Yeah. And so when I got out and I got home, and I knew then what my problem was. It was complex PTSD. I discovered that in treatment. And I needed to get all these emotions out. I started drawing my first comic book, and it was called Tales of Abuse. And it was my story of what I witnessed, what I survived, and I just started drawing it as a horror comic book, because that's how I remembered it. And I even had a presenter who would tell the tales of abuse, and he would take you into my mind, and we'd go down these long tunnels in my mind to arrive at a memory, and then I'd write it and draw it.
Yeah, it was very Crypt Keeper. I remember that when you were working on it.
And I started that because I was watching you on a live stream one day, and you're telling your audience, if you want to draw comic books, start drawing comic books. And I was like, no one ever told me that before, or I've never seen that idea expressed before. If you want to draw comic books, start drawing comic books. And then you said, because you are never going to have all the skills that you want to have drawing comic books. And the only way you're going to get those skills if you start drawing comic books. So that gave me permission to suck. And once I had that permission, it's like, okay, to start make mistakes. And you said, I make mistakes all the time still, even now. And I'm like, well, if he makes mistakes and he can draw like that, then I can make mistakes too. So I did Tales of Abuse, 2 issues. Both issues weren't quite 20 pages long. They're like around 15 pages long. And honestly, the only reason why I couldn't go on farther, because I realized I really suck. And
I think you expressed a lot of powerful emotions in that. And that's the thing that I try to communicate to a lot of people, is that the most important thing is not the drawing. It's it's communication, it's telepathy. You're literally taking something inside of you and handing it to someone else to receive. And your work did that. It's not about the draftsmanship. And I mean, and the fact that you're willing to take that leap, I do encourage people to do that. And a lot of people still are afraid to. So you should be proud that you took that step. That's a big deal. It really, really is.
Thank you.
A lot of people that have the same passion that you do and never make that leap.
Thank you. I did that because you gave me permission to suck. So when I realized how many skills I really needed to acquire to get better, I started drawing in this. Every day. I was drawing in it every day. And the person who I was learning from, his name is Mark Kistler. And every day he draws live for 30 minutes, and he teaches people how to draw. And a lot of these ideas a lot of these skills that he was telling people I already knew. So I was like, I don't need to learn that. And I said, no, let's start over at the beginning. And so this was one of the first drawings I made in this.
Solo.
Yeah, it's just a clam underwater, and it says, "No, I'm not coming out. You said I have a big ass." and the fish, and it says, "You so said she had a big ass." And then the other clam says, "No, I said you have no legs." And so there was like where I
It's just
took
a
these
fun, silly cartoon, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, humor is a very powerful tool. You know, if you can make someone laugh, you're like 90% of the job is done.
Yes. And so I started learning from Mark the fundamentals of shapes, light source, horizon line. And these things were never taught to me as I was learning to draw. That's all I did was look at comic books and just either copy what I saw or later drew what I saw. My inspirations were like Eisner, Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, and so what they were doing, I was drawing, but I didn't know how they were drawing what they were. And in making comics, you gotta have these basic skills. Yeah. And so I drew in this for a year, and towards the end, this is how good I was getting at just watching
beautiful pen and ink or ballpoint pen illustrations, man.
And that was at the on the tail end of this journal. And where are the last drawings in this? Like turning a circle into some, crazy beast. And when I started getting this good, when I could take a basic shape and start shading it and making it look good, and started combining shapes into make objects, and knowing where my light source is, and knowing how to cast my shadow, and knowing how to shade, and that's when I started drawing Ganjaverse. And Ganjaverse is, if you took Guns N' Roses and you took Dune, which is my favorite sci-fi novel, and cannabis, what would you get? And into my mind, you get Ganjaverse. And cannabis, when I left treatment, I was never a user of cannabis before I went into treatment. And when I got out of treatment, it was like treatment really didn't do much for me. It didn't help me a lot. What it did do for me was that it stopped my over exercising. It stopped my anorexia, and it reset me. But when I left treatment, I didn't know much of anything, how to get better. And I was struggling with anger so much. And every day it is because of PTSD. And my wife says to me, you work in the cannabis industry. Why don't you start taking cannabis? And I was like,
smart lady.
I was like,
tell her I said so.
Yeah. I was like, okay. So I started out, that's a whole nother podcast, what I started out with. But let's just say I started out with the concentrates. And wow, boy, it helped too much. Yeah, don't start, if you've never taken cannabis, don't start with the concentrates, because they are strong. Yes. And but here it is, 4 years later since I've been out of treatment, and I've been habitually using cannabis every day. I am so much more healed from my trauma than I was when I first went to treatment. I am so much further along in psychologically that I've stabilized now. I have tools now to deal with PTSD. And I think in a large part, it is because of what cannabis did for me. I can relive a lot of my trauma during the day, but it's when I'm taking cannabis, it's like on the back burner. It's happening, but I feel good. I feel okay. I feel happy, and I can function now in the world. I can't hold a regular job still, but I can at least go out in public. I can go to a concert. I can go and be around people, and I can conduct myself where I'm not scaring other people around me, which was
functional.
Yeah. which is what I was doing before. Because I get angry, boy, I just like overreact in public and people around me, and it's because I had no fuse. It's not I had a short fuse; it was I had no fuse, and I couldn't regulate my emotions before. And treatment and art brought me those skills.
By the way, speaking of that, when you were showing your journal, guys in the chat were definitely, Dylan, was definitely like, wow, and my buddy Herman also said, yeah, Shane has some nice art. So they definitely appreciate the work you're sharing, man.
Thank you, guys. That means a lot. So when I got those skills, I could start. So we go back to Ganjaverse. As soon as I acquired the skills and I could draw a comic book, and I was confident in my skills over Tales of Abuse, because I would get an idea, I'd take out a piece of paper, and what was here would end up on my paper exactly the way I saw it here. And that's with just a little bit of skills. So I started Ganjaverse, and I had the first 5 pages in my head so well, I didn't even need to thumb them. And this is issue 3 of Ganjaverse when I started making really good thumbs. And but the first 5 pages, I drew them and they looked beautiful. And then once they were on the page, I realized, wait, he's not saying anything. There's no dialogue or anything in this. So I had to go back, put something in his mouth, make some kind of story, because I was only thinking as an artist. I wasn't thinking as a storyteller. I was thinking visually of how cool it would look, and it looks cool. It looks good. And then after the 5 pages, I had nothing. So,
well, yeah. But it means you definitely had a strong opening. So that's the thing. It's like figure out what comes next. This brings me interesting. But we can take a sidetrack just into process a little bit. Do you think of comics as always having a marriage of pictures and words, or do you see it as there's sequences where you might do purely visual storytelling as needed? Because I don't think there's any, if it's intended, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a sequence that has no dialogue. In fact, I kind of like that, but it's a matter of doing it intentionally.
Yeah, I do too. And a matter of fact, Primal, which just came back for season 3, is I love that so much because that's how I think of art. I think if you have really good art and you have visually storytelling idea, you don't need dialogue. But for something like Ganjaverse, you actually do. I do need dialogue. I do. And so I had to go back and think about my antagonists. Why does Ganjaverse exist? I had to go up and actually come up with a beginning, middle, and end, and I also had to study the craft of storytelling. I never had to worry about that before in my life when drawing comic books, because it was all visual. And when I was making Tales of Abuse, man, I lived that. I didn't have to struggle for this was my life. But Ganjaverse only had 5 pages of a really cool idea, and it does look cool, and that was it. So I don't know how to write. And so when I thought of Ganjaverse, I thought of in terms of, I suffer from the stress of anxiety, very similar to you. I'm sorry.
Right before that, I had put up a comment. Amar said, wow, I went the opposite route. Instead of anger, I retreated inward, but everyone reacts to trauma differently, which is very true.
Yeah.
And and this is something that we've had a conversation about in terms of figuring out where to start creatively. And I've encouraged people like in our creative community, like do an autobio comic, talk about stuff you've gone through. Because I think that if in lieu of having a quote unquote narrative to tell, everybody has something that other people can relate to. And people have said, well, no one wants to hear about my problems. No one wants to hear about that. And I said, it's not necessarily about hearing about the problems. It's about being seen. And if a person has experienced a trauma or anxiety or stress or situations, and they hear another person expressing the same thing, it's not complaining. It's, I'm not alone. Because a lot of times we feel alone in whatever our suffering is. Everyone feels like they're suffering, they're all alone, no one is with them, and no one understands. And the fact of having someone else express what you are experiencing, to see someone else do that is very powerful. That alone, just feel like I'm not crazy. I'm not alone in the universe. There's other people. Not that you want other people to suffer, but if someone else is suffering the same traumas that you are, it's like, I have company, even if we're separated by miles, even if we're separated by huge distances, even if we never ever meet, spiritually someone else is out there.
Yes.
And that's really powerful. That's huge.
Yes. Yes. And so when I was when I made issue 2 of Ganjaverse, I actually went back and wrote down a story, and I thumbed every page. And when I got about halfway through issue 2, I realized that when I was making more detailed thumbs and putting more detail into them, that when I came to actually drawing the page in in this size, the process was so much faster and so much more detail, and it looked so much better. So then I just started issue 3 of Ganjaverse. I decided to actually put in my wording, telling my story at the top, putting the wording, doing the art, and not taking a lot of time on these, but like I started this out with a shit joke. This fly is sitting on a pile of dog shit and saying, "Hey, Mary, are you really going to wear that? You look dumb." And Mary says, "Eat shit and die, Brad." And then in the next page, I realized if I put the dark shadow on that side of this mobile home, that you're not going to see the pile of dog shit, and so you're not going to
you need to figure out a way to highlight it. That's where you're like, oh, what's a lesson about composition? It's not just where do I want to place the elements, but light and dark and how it frames things. These are all things that you and that's one of those things you might not have known that from an art class. You know it by making the comic and discovering, oh, I need to change things if I want to direct the reader's eye to this.
So yes, and so that's exactly what I did. But I kept this because that is actually a very good representation of my mobile home that I lived in 1992. It's a very good representation of it. And so the next page, I tell my story at the top still. And then there we go. You can see my pickup truck that I had in 1992 and the rest of my mobile home. And also, this is thing that you can't tell in the thread, in the thumb, but if you take the mobile home above that a little bit more, it looks better. And so, and then back here, I changed some things on the big paper. So having a very good detailed thumb, it makes the process so much better and faster. And so I learned that by actually just doing it, and got so much better at making these pages. And let me tell you, if anybody listening to this, if you're going in and making comic books, do yourself a favor and draw a thumb, a good thumb. You can look back to
just for people who aren't used to the shorthand. I think most people here, but thumbnails. So just tiny. It could be because your thumbnails are pretty close to the final size that you're doing.
Yeah.
But some people will do just tiny little sketches. Some people do very detailed ones. There's a good friend of mine, Carl Altstetter. He's been my comic mentor. Kind of taught me the ways of storytelling. And I remember I would watch him doing his layouts. His layouts they look like a finished comic.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, why do you even I'm like, just print your layouts, man. You don't need to they're done.
I know
mine are pretty sloppy, but yes, I agree with you in terms of how detailed the thumbnails are.
Yes. Have you ever seen Frank Franzetta's thumbs?
No.
Oh my!
I have a really nice Frank Frazetta art book, but I don't think it covers a lot of his comic work. Like they might have illustrations, but I don't think they have. Like I've seen his painting thumbnails. I haven't seen any of his comic thumbnails, and I haven't seen much of his comic work other than a few ink illustrations. But I know you did.
I've seen some of his thumbs, and that's your thumb. I can't even do that when I'm trying to make a good piece of art. I can't make it as good as your thumb. Gosh, he's an incredible artist. Speaking of thumbs, I just got this Darwin Cooks.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
And I only knew about this. I believe it or not, I didn't know who Darwin Cook was, and I only knew about him because I was watching YouTube. He's wow, guy's dead now. What a tragedy.
I know, he died way too soon.
Yeah, and he was at a Comic-Con convention, and he was showing people his process and drawing on his big projector, and he says, well, yeah, he just has like a few marks here and there. He gets his basic form and basic shadows, doesn't look like much. And he says, honestly, that's all I do for penciling this. And now I'm going to go in with the inks. Oh my goodness, his thumbs were so good. And his process was so quick and it looked so good. Man, he was just taken from us way too soon. I love his art so much.
Yeah, if you like crime comics, he did an adaptation of Donald Westlake's Parker series. And I've only read the first volume of it, but I was listening to a podcast with Brian Michael Bendis, where he's got like a book club of people, and they're going through, and I don't know if they're working through all of the series in a row or they're just working through it bit by bit. But I heard them talking about like, I think the next one in the series. I'm like, I got to go finish that series. But yeah, everything I've read I've only read a handful of Darwin. I've read New Frontier, I've read Parker, and I think I've read a couple of issues here and there. But he had a run on Catwoman. He's done a bunch of great comics at DC. I don't know if he's done much, if any, Marvel work. But yeah, I definitely need to go through and read all of his. He's fantastic. He's a legend. He's gone too soon, but yeah, an amazing creator.
What I loved most about Darwin Cook is what I loved most when I was like 11 and 12, when I first started reading comic books, is that you take this idea and it's just really the stakes aren't enormous, and it's a cartoony problem, but in this process of storytelling, it is an enormous problem, and it really. Why I fell in love with comic books is because the problems presented in a Spider-Man world when I was 12 years old were cartoony. And he transported that same idea, whereas Frank Miller revolutionized the comic book industry, that Batman was Batman because he was born out of tragedy. And each comic book, every story he ever told, Frank, is like really adult themes, and people liked that transition of dark from trauma storytelling from what it was like, and I actually liked the cartoony problems in the comic book universe, because that was the escape for me. Because when I was 12, the trauma that Frank Miller likes to write about was my world.
You didn't need any more drama. You needed a fun, a safe escape. By the way, Herman just went in and checked because he hadn't known that Darwin Cook passed away. So it's been almost a decade now that Darwin Cook's been gone. Passed away in 2016. So, sorry to be the one to break that to you. I was about to say it's been a while. So that sucks to just find out now and to find out this way. Sorry to be the bearers of such news.
I was lucky that when I first heard about Darwin Cook in the same YouTube episode that he had died. Well,
there were a lot of tributes because I know he worked extensively in animation as well. He was a storyboard artist on Batman the Animated Series. And yeah, he worked in it. I don't know if he went back and forth, or whether he started in comics and went to animation, or whether he started in animation, went to comics, then went back. But he's done extensive animation work as well. So I think there were a lot of people in a lot of different creative industries that really appreciated his work. So, and I'm glad that I think that he would. I think he would be pleased to know that long after he's gone, people are still talking about his work, and that people are still discovering his work and learning to appreciate him. And hopefully that will just go on.
Look at the layout. This is look at the layout. It's like you could put these are two different pages, but look at the way it's like you can make that into one page. His layouts and everything in color is just like. It's so simple. He can draw so simple, but make it look so good. And I love that about him immediately. Is like, and that's what I loved about when I started drawing and getting better in creating comic books, is because I could take simple shapes and make them into objects. And that's what all artists do. But Darwin Cook had a way of stylized look to his everything he drew that just connected with me right away. Like it was so stylized, like Will Eisner, which is my all-time favorite comic book artist. That if you were to look at everything I shaded is because like this influenced by Will Eisner. That's that cartoon is. So now that you are fully transformed butterfly, are you going to evolve intellectually? He says, you voted for Trump. Oh, so what are you talking about? You voted for Trump.
Well, I like how you toss in some philosophical ideas in there with the humor and the biting satire in your work. I was actually going to mention when you were describing the Ganjaverse as kind of a mix of like, of Guns N' Roses, rock and roll, the cannabis industry, and Dune. I saw all of those interests. I saw all of those influences in the first chapter that's up on Tumblr. But I was curious if you'd ever read any of Mobius's work.
Mobius. I just discovered him, actually. And I think it was because of you. You sent me an email. Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. I had never seen him, and I looked at him on YouTube, and then I saw what books he has out, and then I started really investigating his work a lot. And he's an incredible artist.
Oh yeah,
very incredible. He worked on the movie Dune that was never made.
Yeah, Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yeah,
I bought the DVD of that specifically because I think his storyboards are part of the bonus features that are on the DVD, and I just wanted to see those.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that the surreal nature of your storytelling, that it's like even you've got the character Baron Chumphausen, like the fact that it's got that magical realism, non-linear, dreamlike storytelling. But it's like, it's not dreamlike like David Lynch, where it's like unsettling dreamlike. It's sort of fanciful dreamlike. And that's where that's where the Mobius connection popped into my head. Because as I was reading over that first chapter, I'm like, I can feel because Mobius, he's done Western comics, he's done science fiction, but he's also done, I guess, science fantasy, where it's very dreamlike and it's surreal. And I could very much feel that in terms of the way that it's not just the themes, but the way you're telling stories. And I saw a connection.
Yeah. And you were not the first to mention that. You were the first to tell me that my work looked like crumbs. And then I like, who's this Crumb? So then I had to go look at his work, and I realized oh my gosh, the way I shade, the way I make shapes, absolutely does look like Crumb. And then when I was looking at Mobius, when you brought that up, I'm like, oh my goodness, yes. But actually, I was never influenced by those two ever before when I was drawing. My biggest influence artistically was Will Eisner, and then for storytelling, I really, really, really love Rob Liefeld's way of storytelling. It just feels so natural to tell a story like the way Rob Liefeld tells a story for me, and that was my biggest influence in storytelling. I'd like to say it's Frank Miller, but no. Although I love his work and I love his storytelling, but he didn't influence me much at all, like Will Eisner did and Rob Liefeld, and in their art too. Yeah.
I mean, Liefeld's work, it's like it feels like it's punching you in the face. Like that's kind of the energy that he comes with, and he gets criticized for a lot of stuff from some people. But the thing is I came to Jack Kirby's work later in life. Like I appreciated Kirby's work. I read Kirby comics when I was a kid, but I wasn't super into him. And it wasn't probably until I was in my 30s and really studying storytelling when I went back. And now the thing that I see, and this ties into Rob in that Kirby is Rob's number one. That's of all of the creators that he loves, he's influenced by is Kirby. And now I can see the Jack Kirby and Rob Liefeld, whereas I could not see that as a kid. I was reading more Liefeld comics than I was Kirby comics, but I can see it now. And but it's interesting because when you come back to it, like you can see how everyone, it's not necessarily that I was directly influenced by Kirby, but you can see that everyone that I was influenced by, they were influenced by Eisner, Kirby, and the book is right here on my bookshelf. Kurtzman, Harvey Kurtzman. So it's like all the people that I see are influenced by those guys. Well, I would say also John Buscema in there too as well.
Buscema.
Yeah. Like I believe how to draw comics the Marvel way comes up at least once a month.
Yeah.
Live we're talking about it.
Buscema is just, gosh, I mean, how can you talk about comic books and not talk about John Buscema? It's just he could draw. Oh my gosh, he could draw. It's just like I have a book of my wife just got me that book, big book of all his comic book art. So when you're looking through the book, you're actually looking through the comic book pages.
Oh, the artist editions.
Yes. Oh my gosh, his work on the Avengers was so good. But I first learned about Buscema on Conan. And that's how I learned to draw from Conan Barbarian. The human anatomy, drawing the human anatomy of looking at Buscema's work on Conan. It was how I learned to draw. Man, I love his work so much, Buscema.
You know, I mean, I've mostly when I read it, I read reprints of the Avengers, or I would read other, like, believe it or not, I think my first exposure to Buscema might actually be him working on Wolverine, drawing with John Byrne writing.
The limited series.
I think it was, well, Frank Miller drew the first one that Chris Claremont wrote, but when he got his first ongoing, I want to say that John Buscema was the artist on it. But my real exposure to him was his work on Wolverine and just reprints of the Avengers, or if there was like an Avengers annual or a special that they would bring him back on. But I still to this day have not read his Conan run. It's on my to read list because I'm always like, for instance, right now I'm in the last couple of issues of reading Batman Year One by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. And I'm all over the map in terms of like, I'll be reading webcomics, then I'm reading indie comics that are current, then I'll be reading like Marvel or DC books that are current, Then I'll go back and read like an old, like something like John Buscema's Conan. I'll go back and read something old like that. Then I'll go read like some more Love and Rockets, because I've read, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 volumes, but they're like what, 30, 40 volumes of Love and Rockets at this point. I'm all over the place, then I'll read some manga. I try to consume as broadly as possible, I'm always trying to broaden my taste, just to see. I mean, it's not just wanting to see how different people express ideas, but also I love hearing stories that are as different from what I would make as possible. So it's just,
yes,
I just love comics.
Yes. Like, although I wasn't influenced by Frank Miller at all, I love Frank Miller. Mm-hmm. I love everything he draws and all the storytelling. My favorite, John Burney, yeah.
Oh yeah.
John Burney's Next Men that he did in 92, 94, I want to say, was really the pinnacle of his career, I think. Next Men by Dark Horse, when he did that.
I think I have the original issues.
God damn. That was such some... I think that's the pinnacle of his career, that work he did. That he also did Alpha Flight, right? Yeah. And I loved Alpha Flight so much. I got them all. I just recently got all of Alpha Flight off of eBay. The whole run. It is so good. I'm like rereading those, and I got all of Micronauts. That's season, Golden, isn't it? Yeah. I just bought all of the complete series of that too, and I'm rereading that. I got a great story of Micronauts. Oh, so
bring it. I've never read any Micronauts. I remember the toys, like because we're close to the same age, and I remember the toys being around, but the comic, I think it came out before I started reading comics regularly, so I've never read any of them. But go ahead.
So I was 12 years old, and I bought my first comic book was the Spider-Man. But when you're 12, you don't got a lot of money, and plus, I grew up in a working class neighborhood, and we were living in poverty. So I pushed a lawnmower around in my neighborhood, and I'd mow people's lawns to get comic book money, and I'd earned up to sometimes $10 to $20 a day. I'd go down to the used bookstore that was like 5 miles from my house, and I'd walk there, and I'd go in the back where they had like these boxes and boxes of comic books, and they weren't organized in any way. You just go through these boxes and find the comic books that you like the most. Well, the most comic books they had in these big boxes was Micronauts. It's like, there's so many of them. So I would pull out as many Micronauts as I could find that and just spend my entire $10 I'd earned. I'd have like mountain of comic books, but mainly most of them were Micronauts, and I'd get them at 10 cents a piece. And boy, that was the way to consume comic books, and that's what I did. And so soon I would like had that entire collection of that used bookstore. Their comic books was in my bedroom. But many of them were the Micronauts. So I read from issue 1 to I believe they ended the season 1 of it on issue 50, and I bought all 50 issues from that used little bookstore. But the story of the Micronauts, it's like, God, goodness, that was such a good story. And Bug was my favorite character in the Micronauts, and I just loved his arc and how he fell in love and lost love, and his anguish of losing the woman he loved. And they just like devoted an entire issue. I don't know which one it was, but they devoted an entire issue to his love being killed and how he was feeling and what he was going through with that. And I could relate to him in this story, and that's what really I thought Micronauts was. It was the story of humanity with the sci-fi background, and they're only this big, and how we could relate to the storytelling in that, and that's what I loved about the Micronauts. I thought that at the time it was released, it was such an adult comic book, and it didn't really talk down to its audience, and I loved that storytelling in microdot. But yeah,
Well, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, back in the 70s, there was a lot more of comics are for kids. I mean, the comics code still loomed large in storytelling. Like I can't remember when the Spider-Man drug issue came out without the comics code on it, or when they had the story about Speedy, the Green Arrow's Archer, being addicted to heroin. But I feel like that's a very 70s thing to do as well. But I can't remember, that era came out. But yeah, just back then there was definitely not the kind of, and it's interesting now because you hear a lot of people when they talk about the state of the industry that so many more young people that are coming into comics are reading manga, and that the big two, the Marvel DC comics, are being written for 40, 50-year-old people. So
yeah,
just
yeah.
how the industry has shifted and changed, and it still hasn't found that balance of how to create something that, not making all comics for kids again, but it's like saying all TV has to be for adults or for kids. Different stations for different audiences. It just makes sense, and I don't know why the industry hasn't found its footing in terms of creating entry points for all kinds of readers from diverse interests and diverse backgrounds, diverse age groups. I'm not just talking about diverse terms of ethnicity, but just whatever your background is, to have a comic for you. Everybody should be able to read comics.
Yeah, yes, I think so. Absolutely. It's just like, and man, do you remember that first interview that Rob Liefeld gave with Stan Lee in 1992?
Was that one that they videoed where Stan Lee was doing videos with each of the image founders?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yes, and Rob Liefeld was one of the very first ones he did, and Rob Liefeld, I think it was 92, and he said, when you're doing a comic book like Claremont's run on the X-Men, it was like, it's like a movie, and we're putting out a movie every month, and the storytelling is so good, and Chris Claremont's work on the X-Men and that storytelling, it was like, I think that was the pinnacle years of the X-Men, and it is the most popular run of the X-Men, the Phoenix, the dark, the run,
Phoenix Saga.
And yeah, my goodness, the storytelling in that is like, you don't get better storytelling. And I think even Stephen King said, yeah, that was my favorite X-Men too. The storytelling was so good. But yeah, it's like, it's not immature. It's like the Claremont's run on the X-Men is the best writing you're going to get anywhere. And I thought the same thing about Next Men, John Burney's Next Men. It was like the storytelling and all of these characters was so amazing. And it was so good. It's like, I'm glad you still have that, by the way. Next Men. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I saved all the book. Most of my stuff, most of my collection are trades, but that was still coming out when I was still buying single issues. So it was nice to just to have all of those. Although Byrne has revisited the X-Men with a book called Neverwhere, or I think it's called Never When. But the idea is that he's not getting paid for it by Marvel, although Marvel finally, they're licensing it from him and publishing it. But what he was doing is he was publishing fan art on his own personal forum. So as long as he's not selling it, they can't sue him because fan art, if he's just making artwork, it's legal. So he basically said he went back to the last issue of X-Men that he worked on and started writing and drawing it as if he was taking over from them, because, famously he and Claremont split over storytelling choices and directions in the book. And, he eventually left X-Men. So he said, well, this is what I would have done if I had picked up after I left. And he's just been doing that. And I think there's probably 12 or 14 issues out, something like that. And he's just been doing it kind of like as a side project over the years. And you can read them all on his forum for free.
Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, and not just that, the thing is they're not inked because Terry. I mean, he can ink them if he wanted to, but Terry Austin was inking him, back then. It's all his pencils, which to me makes it even better because it's like you're getting a look at a John Byrne artist edition. So
yeah, I love just seeing John Buscema's pencils before it's even inked. It looks so good. Matter of fact, my shading style, the way I ink and shade, is that I always wanted to draw with ink what I can do with a pencil. So when I first started discovering inking, I discovered with this little pen, I can yes, I can control my shading like I could with a pencil. And when I discovered that, it just became so natural to me to then start inking the way I would with the pen. And this is what I created with it. It's like, let me get, here we go. This is a great,
yeah, that's a lot of detail. Go and push it a little bit closer to the camera because I just want people to be able to see how detailed that the shading and hatching is on these. Yeah, that's nice, man.
So with that little pen, I can create a pencil. And I was like, and it just felt so natural to me. So then I started developing that more and more. And like with at the top here with the cross hatching and shading it out. And it's like, I just took off with that. I was like, I'm not going to do inking and creating art traditionally like other people would do with inking over. I'm going to do it this way because it feels so natural to me, like I had a pencil in my hand. And it looks so good to my eye. It looks so good and natural.
No, it looks great, man. Don't sleep on that. You're doing good work.
Thank you. And it's just like, I remember it's like when I was in junior high, and my art teacher started teaching me how to shade shapes. And when I started shading, I noticed if I stretch out the light more on this, it looks really pretty. And so from that age, when I was 12 years old and shading everything, that was the way I wanted it to look. I wanted it to have like a look like because I'd read Will Eisner's graphic novel about. I know he has many, and I'm trying to remember the one he made. A graphic novel about when he went into the service and came back and everything. And
Dreamer.
Yes, yeah, Dreamer. That was the first Will Eisner comic that I read, and I loved his artwork so much in that. Because that's what it felt like to me, is to stretch your light out more, like he does, and it felt natural to me. And there was another artist that felt natural to him. Yeah, but if you use ballpoint pens when doing realistic, yeah, they do. Oh yes, they do. Matter of fact, I belong to a Facebook group where people who do nothing but artwork with ballpoint pens, and I was happy to see that other people fell in love with that tool too in creating art.
Yeah, a few people are on the ballpoint pen.
Yeah, it's funny you don't use
pencil anymore. I use big pens or gel pens. Hasn't used a pencil in years.
Yeah, that's what I use. The big. I bought so many of these too because I could go through a whole pen on one drawing. So I just started buying them in bulk.
Oh, and, you know what? He just said, my buddy Herman, he says, I just bought a couple boxes of black gel and Bic pens. He said, it's all I draw on with paper. He said, but I need to find good whiteout I can buy in bulk. Do you have any tips for whiteout usage?
It's funny.
Let's get into your tool set, because you showed your box with your tools. What else you got in there besides just big pens?
Yeah, I got whiteout too. Yeah, it was funny is this page that I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I use whiteout on this a lot. This page that I'm doing right now. It's funny. Baron Chumphausen is at home. His wife just left him, and this happened to me when I was sitting in my mobile home one day. My wife left. Now, in 1992, when I'm talking about my ex-wife leaving me, I want to say right away, she was correct in leaving me. Yeah, I was. So I'm not complaining about that, but that was the right thing to do. But here he is at home, and Jerry Springer is on the TV, and he had been home. She just left him, and so it's like Jerry Springer says to him, "Sorry, I lost my place. My next guest is Baron, who is of Earth, and Baron says that life has been unfair to him, and we, the powers of Ganjaverse, agree with you that is why we have decided to give you the opportunity to live up to your full potential, Baron. Become our devourer of souls." I love Conan the Barbarian.
Our devourer of souls. That is crazy.
That's actually a character in the Conan the Barbarian comic book. Devour souls. Yes, become our devourer souls, our dark harbinger. Fulfill the old prophecy. Become all that you can be, Baron Chumphausen. And then the next page, a portal opens up in the middle of his mobile home. And I decided to make my villain me. Because like I said earlier, I didn't know how to write when I started making Ganjaverse. I was just making pictures and they were looking really good. And then I realized I'm telling a story and I don't have a story to tell here. And one of the things I had to learn right away, like in the last month, was start studying the craft of storytelling. And so I got Stephen King's On Writing.
Yes.
Yes.
One of my favorite books on the craft.
And I started listening to what he was saying about the craft, because if you want to know about who better than Stephen King. And as I was listening to that, not only hearing about, wow, he had a hard life, but when he was starting to talk about the craft, I was paying attention to him. And he said, write about what you know. And the thing is, I grew up in extreme poverty and a working class neighborhood in Tacoma, Washington, and abuse and trauma. That's what I know. So I started writing about it, making my villain in my story me. And if I had the opportunity to go into a different dimension and get unlimited powers and be able to do whatever I want and live up to my full potential, who would I be? What would I become? And I realized when in this exercise of intellectual honesty, I would become Magneto. I would become Breaking Bad. Eisenberg. I'd become Eisenberg.
He claims he's doing it for his family, but he's really doing it for himself.
Yes. I would become Homelander. I would be, and I thought, well, if I know this about myself, there is this whole arc, there is this whole story to be told from the time he to the start of my corruption to the end of my corruption. And I realized, I can tell this story in like 50 pages. And I can make this this villain so believable because this is what I know. This is what happened to me, and you know, Homelander. He
Which,
is
by the
such a
way, I just for context, you don't have to worry about spoiling it. But I've only watched the first episode of The Boys, and I've only read the first volume of the comic. I love Garth Ennis. I just haven't made, for some reason, I haven't made time to read the comic, and I haven't made time to watch the show. They're both great. It's purely a time factor. So,
oh my God, Jeremy.
I'm telling you that for context in case you make references. I want you to know that I'm not going to I know the characters, but I'm not going to make no references to specific details. I just want.
No, I'm not going to give away any of the story, but
yeah, I'm not worried about. You can tell me stuff that happens.
Okay.
I mean, the show's already ended, so it's my fault for not having watched it till now. I'm not worried about spoilers. I just want to make sure that you know that I'm not going to understand plot points that happen later on.
So if Homelander, if Superman really decided to turn evil, if because what makes Superman such a decent human being person was because, you know, his dad.
Parents, yeah.
Yeah, he had such a good dad. Homelander didn't have that. And a matter of fact, when he got his superpowers, he was in a very sterile situation, and nobody to love him, and so when he became an adult, what he's searching for now is love, and he's trying to fill that vacuum in his heart where he had no love given to him, and they devoted a whole episode of what was done to him and The Boys and what he did. And I realized if I could be Homelander, I would become Homelander. I would destroy the world in search of my mother's love. The only character I said I would become if I could be a character, it would be Dr. Manhattan.
From Watchmen. And then, Herman says, for me, it'd be the Hulk, which, I mean, the Hulk, his story is a story of surviving abuse and trauma. So I think a lot of people that for him, I think he's probably one of the most relatable characters in comics.
So
I was gonna circle back to something you'd mentioned, that you felt like you could tell the whole arc of the story in, say, 50 pages. So do you think of the Ganjaverse as a contained story that you're telling in webcomics form, or do you see it as something that goes on and on and on?
I see it end at probably 100 pages, maybe more. Because after Baron Chumphausen is defeated, I didn't even tell who the main hero was, by the way. Okay, so Ganjaverse is a mixture of Guns N' Roses, sci-fi, and cannabis. And so the person who breaks the barrier, who comes into Ganjaverse first, is a 3 heads high Slash from Guns N' Roses. And he crash lands. He crash lands on Ganjaverse. He doesn't realize that it's neither do people who are on Ganjaverse realize that it's just a cannabis world. But he comes. That's how, and he comes to Ganjaverse because he got home after a gig. He smokes his bong and all that he just got, and then all of a sudden a portal opens up in his apartment, and he's sucked into Ganjaverse. And I thought, how am I going to bring Baron Chumphausen into Ganjaverse in issue 3? And I thought, why don't I just have him smoking a bong and the portal opens up? And then I thought,
simple enough. And it's
a metaphor. Yeah. And so I thought, okay, we're going to have some wizards on Ganjaverse who put out all these enchanted bongs into different dimensions to bring people to Ganjaverse. So
almost like Green Lantern rings.
yes, that was my motive. Yes. Yeah, that was actually my direct motivation. And so anyway, so that's how he got to Ganjaverse. And I thought I made up a new character
Mhm.
that once Baron Chumphausen gets to Gonjaverse, this character is just going to die in one issue. But he's like a plague doctor,
Mhm.
and his hat is actually a demon that was brought from another dimension by Merlin,
Mhm.
and the guy, the plague doctor, is Judas Iscariot. That he was actually cursed to live for all eternity for betraying Christ,
Mhm.
and so Merlin decided, I need someone in this realm to take care of things. Why don't you go there? So he's had this gig on Gonjaverse where to prevent the destruction of Gonjaverse, he kills everyone that comes to Gonjaverse. And this hat. Now I thought, how am I going to show this hat as a demon? And one of my favorite episodes of X-Men
Mhm.
was the Shadow King.
Mhm. Are you talking about the X-Men 90 90? Are you talking about the new reboot of the X-Men animated series or the original one from the 90s?
The Uncanny X-Men, where the Shadow King and came
Are you
in
just talking
and
about the comic? Because I forget you were talking about the animated series.
No, the
Because they
comic
do
book.
have the Shadow King, I think, in the old animated series. But I remember the issues with the Shadow King, the Muir Island saga.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? I think Jim Lee did those, or was it Jay Lee?
I think that was Jim Lee. But
The
it was
way
towards the tail end of I think before they branched off and did like the relaunch where it was like the X-Men that he was writing.
So the hat is actually a demon, and I thought I love the way they showed the way the Shadow King would talk in the same panel, but it was in someone's head, and so they could give it like a physical being in the world. The way Jim Lee drew the Shadow King, where you could tell it was just speaking inside his head, but it occupied space in the panel. And I thought, I'm going to do that with this character in this hat because I drew in issue 1, Baron Chumphausen. I had the idea of Baron Chumphausen. I didn't know what really he was going to look like.
Going to turn into, but you had something.
Yes. And I knew that I really loved Conan the Barbarian, and I wanted to make a character kind of like that. So I gave him a kilt. I gave him a cowhide vest. And I love, I don't like Motorhead, but I certainly love their lead singer.
Lemmy?
Lemmy. I love his look. I love his aesthetic. And I thought I could take that face and plant it on this character. And because I'm already using Slash as inspiration, people are going to know. I love the way Lemmy looked, the way his Civil War hat and his beard. And so I'm using that aesthetic as Baron Chumphausen. And
I mean, it would be interesting to see you kind of cherry pick some of your favorite musicians and put them in cameos in different roles throughout this.
I've been thinking about that because I really want to do something with oh darn it. I'll come back to it. Yeah. He was an inspiration for Fun Boy in The Crow.
Oh, Iggy Pop.
Iggy Pop, thank you. Yeah, I really love the way Iggy Pop looks in his swagger too. So, but my biggest inspiration when I was a kid really was Guns N' Roses. They were like everywhere. They revolutionized the music industry because at that time there was all hair bands and glam rock, and Guns N' Roses came by, and even though Motley Crue was much of the same as those glam bands and they had a different sound, Guns N' Roses, they had hair, yes, but they were not a hair band. They were a metal rock band. And Slash, when he would get on that guitar, he would just rip it. And Axl's like attitude, I say what you want about Axl. There's a reason why Axl was the way he was, but damn, he commanded that audience. And that music for me back in 1980 87, around there when they first came on the scene. Life,
presence.
yes, life sucked so bad for me, and it was so hard for me, and I was in the height of my emotional loneliness back then. That the only thing that really made life suck less for me was comic books and Guns N' Roses, and I was like, I got to use that now. I have to use that now. And that's what I know the most about. And that's what I'm the most passionate about. It was like comic books and Guns N' Roses because they just made life suck less, And that's what it's like. And I figured I can put my passion on a page and people would sense that honesty. And that really is people who have come across Ganjaverse, showing it to them on Facebook and all the other comic book groups and on Instagram and everything. People are coming back and saying that they can tell already the passion that I have for Guns N' Roses. And I'm on page 15. I just uploaded getting that
URL up again in case anybody came to the stream late. So it's house5studios.tumblr.com. If everybody wants to go check that out.
Please do. Yes. Yeah, leave a comment. Leave a comment. I would love that. And if you like Guns N' Roses too, let me know how much you love Guns N' Roses. And the feedback I've been getting, I think David Bowie, James Brown, Jimi Hendrix, and Stevie Wonder would be a part of my X-Men for musicians. I have others.
That would be a hell of a band.
What can you say about David Bowie? Wow. How old is the Earth? Like 2 billion, 6 billion years old. And then our existence is such a small, tiny, wouldn't even register in that time. But we got to be alive when David Bowie was alive.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see. Herman says Michael Jackson and Prince. And I mean, it's amazing how many of these legends are gone before their time. It seems weird to me that we live in a world where it just seems weird that Prince and David Bowie are both gone. It still doesn't compute to me because their music is so timeless.
My wife and I joke that after David Bowie died, the world went to hell. After that, David Bowie was the fabric that kept the universe together.
He was one of the seven seals.
Right?
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if you are a fan of Venture Brothers, but he was a character in the Venture Brothers. He was the Sovereign. So he's kind of like sort of like the man who is behind the scenes of the evil organization that the Venture Brothers were dealing with, or that ran the Guild of Calamitous Intent.
So as bring it back to Ganjaverse here. Look this page. So Baron Chumphausen is crash landing on Ganjaverse again, and I love this page that I'm going to be drawing because it really, I felt like from issue 1 that I started at to finishing the thumbs on this, in that short time that I created Ganjaverse and getting these ideas down and creating compositions, I learned so much from that very first episode, that issue, to this issue, that when creating these panels and these page layouts, it is not such a struggle to put shapes together anymore. To draw objects, to put light on them, to make them look like they inhabit a physical environment. It's not such a struggle anymore. It's like it's like what you said when I first heard you say that. If you want to make comics, start drawing them, and you're really not going to learn how to do this any better than actually just sitting down and doing it, and start working out those ideas and trying to get exactly what's in your head on paper until you start doing it. Make those mistakes.
Yes, you got to get out there. I mean, every page is practice. Every panel is practice. So
yes.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because it's like you're living proof of what happens when you just take on the challenge and just start doing it.
Yes. Because like I looked at other comic books that are independent comic books and the way people drew them, and I'm like, I can do better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Then do it. Then do better than that. And start. What I love about David Grohl too in music, he says you have to suck before you get better. And he talked about how people instantly want success, and when he first started out with Nirvana, they sucked so bad, and then they got, so it's like, God, make those mistakes, start learning from those mistakes. I learned really quick. I had all these ambitions for Tales of Abuse, and that I wanted to do, and they were lofty ambitions, and I didn't have the skill to do it, and I was so frustrated when making Tales of Abuse. I wanted to tell the story, but I wanted to tell the story in an aesthetic way that looked really good. And I couldn't do it. Oh my goodness, I couldn't do it. I was so frustrated. So then I went, oh man, I didn't even talk about Egghead. I think I showed you Egghead.
I feel like I'd seen it at some point over the years. Go ahead, let's talk about it.
Oh man. So nihilism, I really see myself as a nihilist. And I don't mean that in a negative way. People shouldn't think that nihilism actually is a negative philosophy, because it really isn't. If it's anything, and it's a intellectually honest philosophy. You know, there's like, for instance, there's no justice, there's only power. And when I started thinking about my abuse and what happened to me growing up in the context of nihilism, I realized, one, I'm not special.
And it's sad, because I wish that was the case. That it was rare. Yes,
but what happened to me wasn't rare. I'm not special. This happens every day to people, and so that really took a lot of the space that was occupying in my mind away. And when I started studying this worldview of nihilism, I thought of this. What if an egg was a living person, and what if one day that egg started hatching a chick, and that process of this egg cracking, of this chick coming up out of its head, was so unimaginably painful for this egg that he's screaming in the middle of this form is, "Oh God, make it stop!" And then once this chick gets out, starts coming out of the top of his head, it is totally unempathetic and sympathetic of the egg's plight, and so his only purpose in life was to give birth to this chicken. And then once this chicken was birthed, he had no longer had any purpose in his life, and that once this chick leaves his shell, he can then die. Well, the thing is that the chicken decided that the world was much too scary, and inside this egg, it was very comfortable and was very safe and didn't want to leave. So now, Egghead and the chick must go on in life, but they must create purpose for each other. And so at the end, it's like, well, if you don't leave, the chick says, well, if I don't leave, you're going to have to create purpose in your life. And it's like, what do we do? Well, why don't we just make it to the top of this next hill? And so expressing these ideas and how nihilism really, we are not special, and we should not think of ourselves as special, and we should live each day to its fullest and create purpose in our lives, and quit looking for external input to create purpose in our lives, that we create purpose in our lives. And so that's I did 18 pages of Egghead. I called it Egghead, and you could see the skills that I had acquired already when I created Egghead. that they were good, but they still were not to the level that I felt confident, like I do in these pages, that I can create a comic book. And so the practice I got in creating Egghead, like, fomented. I like, okay, this is the last bit I really feel like I need to learn to create a comic book. And I grew so much of those 15 pages in composition, making like, you know what? When you're lighting an egg, you know, and it's such a simple object, and that's why I chose to draw it and putting legs on it and everything, you still have to get your shading right to make it look like
the simpler the shape, the more accurate the shading has to be, because any deviations or incorrect lighting is going to show up that much more. So you kind of have to. You're out there you're out there on stage with no pants on, so you better be swinging.
Yes. Yeah. So I at the end of that, I created the cover for it then, and I saw how good my cover looked for Egghead, and I said, like, okay, I got these skills now. I really feel I could at least do as good as Brum does in his page, and actually he does really good work. And but I can at least create a comic book where I'm confident that I can actually draw one in any way that anything that's in my head, I can now draw it. And it was just doing it.
There's something important that I want to add to this, because I myself, even now, still have problems with my art in terms of it being able to draw things exactly the way I see them in my head, being able to figuring out ways to tell the story the way that I want it to tell. I'm putting more energy into writing now because I've gotten my artwork to the point where I can express. I'm generally not worried about being able to express an idea overall. So I'm more working on, wow, I need better ideas. So I'm spending more time working on that, but I'm still going to figure drawing classes every single week still. And I go after class, I come home and I go over those drawings and I study those and look at what's wrong with them. The point that the reason why I bring this up is because you had mentioned that you've gotten to the point now, you've got the skills to be able to tell the story you want. The message I think that's important for everyone that's watching us talking to take away is that there is never a point where you're done learning. There's never a point where you're done growing. And it is very, very important. It's a huge step to get to the point where you're like, I have the abilities to make the thing I want to make. That's a huge, important step. But on one hand, it's a warning to not be upset when once you make the thing, you're like, well, I made the thing, but I'm still not as good as I want to be. That's never going to go away. But the important thing is to transition, because here's the thing, the arc of trying to get good enough to do the thing you want to do is a huge arc. But once you complete that arc, then what I see, what is a healthy journey, is to transition now into continual growth. It's now that you can do what you want to do, it's no longer about always chasing and always feeling like you're not good enough, because you've passed that. You're past the bar of, am I good enough?
Yeah.
But and realizing that you're still not as good as you want to be can be negative if you continue to frame it. If someone continues after that level to frame it as chasing something, instead of simply looking at it as, we continue to grow and evolve as beings throughout our lives. We grow intellectually, we grow emotionally, we grow in terms of our interests and tastes, and that growth should not be limited to our artwork. And I think knowing that because it sounds like you're probably at that point where, because it sounds like you're at the point where I am super excited because I can make the thing that I want to make. And I'm here to tell you that when you're done with this phase, there's going to be another level of, well, I want more. And when that phase hits, don't look at it as a negative thing. Look at it as a transition into, you're an ever evolving being. Yeah. And that's how you should be for the rest of your life. Always growing, always learning. And I felt like I needed that, because otherwise I felt like the frustration of, why aren't I a master yet? That frustration can eat somebody alive creatively. Yes.
it's funny. I drew this page. I actually pitched my idea for Ganjaverse at a cannabis magazine, but I'm not going to say which one because I didn't have a very good experience one with the editor. And he liked my idea, he liked my art, and I said I want to give this to you for free because I want your audience to read this. And I thought, and it's going to be a web comic, you're going to get it for free, you're not going to have to do anything but put it on your website. He loved the idea, of course he did, but I needed input from him actually because he was my editor. That didn't work out well, so I created.
No, wait, did you feel that you needed input from him, or did he request input?
No, I said, when is my deadline? And he got mad at me because I emailed him.
Oh, well, you can't deal with people that are unreasonable.
Just like, wait, you're my editor and you can't even tell me when a deadline is, when this next issue is going to come out? I need to know this because this is going to take time. So I need to know what time scale I have. Yeah. So he was like, that's what it was. And so I like, okay. So I made a advertisement for his company inside Ganjaverse, and I drew it, and I spent 12 hours on this illustration. Now, I wanted to draw light coming down from the surface underwater, and those beams of light and rays of light coming down, and the way the light is fractured on the surface.
I can visualize it. I can see it. It's a very distinct look.
I wanted to draw that, and I know how to draw that. And when I started applying perspective and a horizon line and vanishing points and going through it, it wasn't working. But I was following the rules, and I was so frustrated because, like, 2 hours later, I've been working at this. I got my vanishing point, and it's only a single vanishing point, so it shouldn't be this hard, but it was. It was so hard. And so I gave up on it, on the idea, actually ripped the paper up and did something that was easier. It still looked good, but it didn't look good to my eye because that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to draw what I was just describing, the way each light is fractured on the surface and black and white and beams of light, and just I know how to draw it. I don't know why it wasn't coming out the way I had in my head, but it wasn't. And so it really frustrated me. So yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And that never, part of it is that as we improve, we become more ambitious and we try to do harder and harder things. I mean, just the fact that you described an underwater scene with light filtering through and doing that in pen and ink and doing that in ballpoint pen, that's a very ambitious project. I mean, you can do it with like in Photoshop or in a digital program, just doing it with a simple gradient passing through a field of dark. You can, and then just adding ripples. You can do it in those materials in a simplistic way, but rendering it with the tools that you're doing, it is an artistically ambitious exercise. But that's what happens. We grow, we get better. We want to try different things.
Yeah. And so doing it the way I decided to go with it, it still looked fine, but not what I really wanted to do. And so that was after that experience, I said, okay, fine. I'm going to do Ganjaverse on my own and just release it on my own and just tell the story I want to do and see what happens from there going forward and everything. But drawing 5 pages a week, I've also discovered, well, for one, I got to keep on feeding this. And that's hard. But drawing 5 pages a week, I discovered is not as easy as I thought it was going to be to do regularly.
Who told you it was going to be easy? I can't do 5 pages a week.
Yeah.
I can't even get 1 page a week out. I mean, true, I'm doing it around a work schedule, but 5 pages a week is sort of like the the standard, like being able to pencil and ink a page a day, is kind of the standard just to be able to work in mainstream comics. And that's hard for most artists. There's very few artists who can do that, at least not for long periods of time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm on this is page, I think, this is a third page this week I've been working on. And, yeah, I thought it would be easier. I thought, okay, 5 pages is no problem. And, no, that's actually a lot of work. I didn't know it was going to be that much work doing that, but the thing is, it's so much fun. That's what also I wanted to talk about. What's going on in the world right now? If it's not having a negative impact upon our mental health, you're either dead or other things why you don't care.
Yeah, art is definitely a mental health coping strategy. You know, I mean, for me, it is. It's my safe space. It's my happy space. It's what I do. Even though it's challenging and hard sometimes, it's what centers me. It gives me some peace. Allows me to sleep at night.
So what's happening recently in the world, I didn't even know it happened when it happened, because I was finishing up on a page and I just penciled everything. All that was need to do was the outline and outlining it in heavy lines and shading. And that entering that fugue state where nothing exists but the paper you're concentrating on. And I like to listen to audiobooks while I'm drawing, and just having the audiobook, having the art in front of me, creating the art that's in my head, getting it on paper, that process of doing that, the rest of the world can go away. It doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the image in my head and my paper. And the ability to do that has saved my mental health, not only now, but man, when I was 12 years old, I used to get home, read my comic, and start drawing. And my life then, it saved me then. It gave me purpose then. Sometimes I couldn't wait to get home to draw this idea I had about comic books, and it wouldn't go away. And I would draw it. Now, unfortunately, it didn't look anything like what I had in my head, but I drew it, and it saved me. And I'd stay in my room for hours just drawing the Incredible Hulk. I used to draw comic books where he would protect me and take me away from my life. And having art in my life was my saving grace of what saved me ultimately. And especially now, right now, that's going on in the world, it's saving me now. And that's why I'm giving it to people for free, by the way. It's free on Tumblr. Anybody can read it. Want to just give people something to read every day that they might get enjoyment out of. And my latest issues, when I introduced Baron Schumphausen, I redrew page 11 and made something better. But that was because when I got to page 11, I told this story that it was really in my head and I did it really well. Now I don't have a bad guy. Now I don't have, what do I do? So I need to draw something. So page 11, the old page that I had up there, was just something because I didn't know what else to draw. But when I started thinking about it, I didn't like it. And so I redrew it. And so one of the things, one of the bad guys in my story is a multi-face deity. And if you think about like the Hindu deities where they have multiple heads and everything, I really loved that idea. So I thought about why don't I just take that idea and transport it into my comic book, and the face turns every time it's talking to whoever they're talking to. And so I imagined how that would look, and I drew it, and it looked like that, but I really didn't like it. And
we tend to be critical.
Yeah. So, but I thought, you know what? There's a good idea there. The only reason why I don't like it is because I didn't do a thumbnail and I didn't work it out, and I didn't see how the ideas were working on paper and seeing how I can improve upon it. So when I had an idea to redraw page 11, it was this big tower, and on this tower, did you see it?
I definitely saw it. I'm trying to remember the tower though, but because I read back and read it a couple days ago.
Big tower, and at the top of the tower is a multi-faced deity that we see inside the comic book, and so to have that tower and to draw the multi-faces going around the tower, and to make that the focal point at the center of this castle and this town, is just this one tower. And I thought that would look really cool. And so I drew it, and then I'm like, wow, I really need practice on how to draw other buildings around this, because although it looks okay, it looks good, I can improve on it. And you know why I didn't improve on it? Is because I didn't do a thumb for it.
Well, but that's the nice thing, is even stuff like buildings and environment, like just doing studies, you can do thumbnail study. Like that's honestly a lot of what I do when I'm just doodling, is I'm just doing not necessarily thumbnails for a story, but just like, what does this building look like? What does this vehicle look like? What would this character look like? And just be playing with ideas, in a rough sketch form before I go to the actual comic page.
Yeah. And just getting that down on paper and working it out. How I was going to draw this isn't working out. How can I make this work out the way I see it in my head? And once you get that worked out on the thumb, you got it all worked out. It's all done. Now you just put it on. Yeah. I didn't understand the importance of that until I started learning. So I started doing it. And I really want to take it back. People, if you want to draw comic books, draw them. Just like Jeremy said, when he gave me he gave me permission to suck.
And people shouldn't need permission. I only give the encouragement because there are people who feel like they can't do it unless someone tells them go ahead. I wish that everyone felt empowered enough that they could just say, I'm going to take what's inside of me and express it. But for those who don't feel that, for people who, for whatever reason, feel afraid or judged or insecure about their abilities, that, we're saying, just go make the thing you want to make. Just put it out in the world. You're doing it as a webcomic. You had an idea, you had a vision, you've put it together, you're doing it out there. And that's because that's the thing. I don't feel like I should have any sway over what other people do internally and how they feel about themselves and their creativity. But I'm here to encourage people, for someone who feels like they can't. I have no power over someone does or doesn't, but I'm telling you, you can go, do, make. So I think that's actually a great note for us to bring things in for a landing here on.
All right, one more thing.
All right.
So Gilbert in Grape. Gilbert in Twitch, I mean.
An R2D2 C3PO feel to their exchange.
Yes, that was this was the main characters in Gonzaverse. And I finally got a point in my abilities to draw the way I wanted. And when they finally came out of my head onto page, it was it looked so much better. And one more thing. So look at this one. I just really love the idea of when we first saw Luke return to the big screen and his hand was resting on R2D2. And I really wanted to redraw that because that was such a, oh yes, that's Luke and that's R2D2 and that's his hand. Oh wait, that's his hand. And I just I wanted to do a 3 heads tall Jedi next to the new droid. I forgot his name. BB-8.
BB-8.
Yes, and it was in my head. I had a clear vision of it, and I just drew it, and it looked like what was in my head. And people, you just got to go out and do it, and make those mistakes and learn from those mistakes, and you'll get to the point where you can just draw what's in your head. It doesn't take long. You just need to learn shapes and how to shade them and stack them. That's important. If I want to give anybody an exercise, it's 2. It's draw a bunch of circles that form a triangle. Choose a light source that you want to hit those circles and make them look 3-dimensional. And once you start practicing that, you can shade anything and stack shapes, folks. Just like take squares on top of circles, on top of triangles, and think about how light's going to hit those objects and making it one object. And taking that you can draw. Once you can do that, you can draw anything. Our nose is a triangle. Our head's an oval. It's like once you learn how to do that, you can draw anything.
I was going to say, I've talked to some artists that have antiphasia, which is that thing where you can't create a mental picture in your head. You can only draw what you see. But there are people who are professional artists, even concept artists, like the guy who created Schoolism, Bobby Chu. He has that, and he developed a whole process for how to design and concept things without drawing mental pictures. So he's like, that imagining that's happening happens on the page. But I bring it up because the exercise you mentioned of stacking things, I say go one further. I bought a set of just children's wooden blocks. Just get some blocks, put a light on them, and I got the ones that are wooden instead of the ones that are multicolored. You just set up a little still life, next to a lamp, and just sketch those, because seeing in real life how light renders on forms, it's good whether you can imagine things in your head or if you can't. It's a good exercise because a lot of times as you're learning, your mental concept of how light falls on an object isn't the same as what you actually observe. So it's actually nice to be able to, I would say, to tack that on to the exercise you were mentioning. The second thing about the stacking stuff. Stack stuff in real life and sketch it.
I did that.
You don't even need to go out and buy a wooden block. You just grab whatever crap is around your house and your desk. Sit your phone next to a book, next to a tennis ball. It doesn't matter. Just stack stuff together, light it, and sketch it.
Yeah. That's I absolutely agree.
Let's see here. Yeah, Herman asked antiphasia. That's not the exact spelling, but that if you were to type that in, then it'll probably autocorrect it. I can't spell it off the top of my head either, but that's pretty close to it. And our buddy Jim Lujan is here. Just said that Paul Pate's here, and he said you just need to know this. They're great animators and indie artists as well. Good to see you guys both, Jim and Paul. All right, guys. So we're gonna get out of here. Let me pull up again the website to read Ganjaverse, the webcomic. It's house5studios.tumblr.com. Is there any place else you want to direct people to? Anything else you want to let people know about your work?
I am on Facebook under House 5 under Billy Slaughter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, thanks so much for coming on. I mean, it's great for us to actually be able to have this conversation because we've known each other for years.
Yeah.
It really is fun just talking process, going into it, shooting the shit. I mean, it feels like just a real life version of all the conversations we've had through messaging over the years. So this has been great, man. Yeah.
And I want to thank you personally again for giving me permission to suck all those years ago, because once I started sucking, I learned how to become an artist and acquire skills and improving. It's just that having someone say, just go do it. You're never going to have all the skills you want. Go do it. Yeah. And that worked.
I'm really happy to hear that, man. That actually really moves me, and I'm glad to see how much this creative journey is
thank you,
enriching your life.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
All right, guys. On that note, as far as I'm concerned, if you enjoy these live streams, let's get additional bonus live streams twice a month. You can head on over to patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. As little as $2 a month gets you in, become a part of this creative community. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, blog posts about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free newsletter at substack.com/@Jeremy. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comic books or free digitally on Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net.
Eyes of the Gods, really good. That was the first. Yeah, that was the first comic book I read by you, and it is so good. Look at the way that cover. Gosh, that is so good. That is so good.
Well, thank you. You know what? I was going to tell you, you mentioned that. Thank you for those kind words. You mentioned this early on. I was going to tell you the actual original artwork for this cover is just the figure. Because what I did was I made one eyeball in Photoshop. Then what I do is I took that eyeball and I made like 4 or 5 variations. I rotated them in different directions, changed the color, and changed the shape of the pupils. So then I had 5 eyeballs digitally. And then the cover is just me assembling all of those eyeballs around the figure. So a bit of digital trickery there to make that. And so I just wanted to say that because, yeah, if I had to draw all of this, that's a lot. So yeah. I'm all about making life easy on me where I can. It definitely was a Photoshop assist there.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a great comic book. I loved it a lot.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. All right, everybody else in the chat, thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks for all the great comments. Appreciate you guys. That's it for now. Go Bye. Be creative.
Absolutely.